All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Yeah.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the ASAP Afternoon Blitz, Monday, November 14th, 2022. Got a lot to talk about. A big day yesterday in the NFL. Some big college football games on Saturday. A lot going on in the sports world. Joined today by Jay McLovin. How's it going, Jay?
Man, it is going well. All I can say is at this point, I really want the Cowboys to finish dead freaking last. So that way Mike McCarthy can finally get his ass out the driver's seat. And hopefully, God willing, Jerry Jones will put Sean Payton in the driver's seat. Then we can move forward. I don't know. That is my hope. That is my wish. We'll see if it happens.
Well, speaking of the Cowboys, we'll start there. Who do you put more blame on, Dak or McCarthy? Dak threw one interception. I don't know if I would say it was his fault, but the other interception was a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas.
A little bit of everything.
I didn't think Green Bay was going to snap their 5-game losing streak against Dallas. I really didn't. I was really surprised. Who put more to blame on?
Yeah, me and Frankie were talking about it. And I was like, before the game, I was like, I just hope to God that the Cowboys don't show their ass and lose to Green Bay. But they did. I put the blame on 3 areas. I put a little bit of it on Dak, put a little bit of it on Mike McCarthy, and some of the play calls. But I also put it on the run defense of the Dallas Cowboys. I felt like they gave up too much yardage to Aaron Jones when they really played much better in run defense than that. So I think it's a third between the run defense and that. And also, there were times when CD was running, the route a little longer than he should have. He should have, on some of the slant routes, he should have made it a little bit more flatter and come up underneath the quarterback rather than going above the cornerback, which led to one of the interceptions. And then there were times when Dalton Schultz was too close to CeeDee Lamb, and you saw that in the end zone where it got too crowded because Dalton Schultz didn't put enough space there. And if you watch that play, you actually saw CeeDee Lamb talking to Dalton Schultz about that. So there were some route running issues between the receivers. Dak, made a couple of ill-advised throws. And play calling and run defense. I mean, that really was – it was just a smorgasbord of stuff that led to that loss, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely the run defense because Green Bay ran the ball almost 70% of the time yesterday. So,
yeah,
I mean, they had a lot of success running the ball. I think that's really what opened up their passing game a little bit to get the touchdown passes they got was that run game. But – I was kind of surprised, though, to see Green Bay stick to the run game like that. That's been their problem to me this year is they haven't stuck to the run game. That's your most talented position with Jones and Dillon. And I think they've gotten away from that. And they got back to it yesterday, and Dallas had trouble stopping it, which I didn't think they would. But then, like my dad said yesterday, the Bears was able to score some points on Dallas the week before. So the last couple of weeks, your guys' defense hasn't played up to the level it had played a little bit earlier in the season because your defense was looking like the best defense in the league or the last couple of weeks they've struggled with the run a little bit.
Yeah, and you also got to put some of the issues on Dan Quinn, not doubling down a little bit on not doubling down on Watson after he burned the secondary for that first touchdown, and then he comes back and gives them two more. So, I felt like they should have doubled down a little bit more on him and Lazard, and then made some of the smaller wide receivers that they had, try maybe like a Tanyan or whatever, try to make them win the game. But I felt like they did not double down on Watson nearly as much as they should have. And he made them pay big time.
Yeah, he had his breakout game in the NFL yesterday with 3 touchdowns. Frankie says Patriots won again yesterday. Let's go.
I know what the hell he's talking about. Just carry on.
But okay, out of those 2 teams, you saw the Packers pick up a win. Let's throw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in there because they were struggling. They've won a couple in a row. Now Tampa's right up there for their division. Do you think Tampa's going to be a contender going down the stretch in NFC? And do you think the Packers are going to be able to turn maybe get some momentum after finally getting a win?
Yeah, with Tampa again, hey, that was a hell of a good game. First of all, tip your hat to the Tampa Bay defense for putting the pressure on Geno Smith and that Seattle Seahawks offense that had been really, really dominant for quite some time, and they really, did a good job in limiting them. But as far as are they contenders? I mean, they just got back to 500. Yes. It's sad when 500 is top of your division, but they're only at 500. So they still got a long way to go before thoughts of contention can be put into perspective. But again, hey, 2 wins and 1 in Germany on the road against Seattle. Hey, it's a good start.
Yeah, I don't know if they're if I'd say they're contenders yet, but I would say that their offense does look like they're starting to get in a little bit better rhythm. Brady has looked better the last couple of weeks. So I'm not going to, but if you can win your division and get in the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen, especially with a guy like Brady under center. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. How's it going, Stat Guy?
It's going well, Chris. How are you, Chris? And how are you, Jay?
I'm doing well. I heard that they may honestly be doing some substance checks on Tom Brady, as there may be some illegal Metamucil found in his watering can. So we don't know yet.
That says Tampa, yes. Frankie says Brady is undefeated since being single.
Chad Giselle was holding him down, man.
What do you think about the Bucs, that guy? You think that they're going to be able to get it turned around and maybe be a contender in the NFC?
I don't think they're going to be a contender in the NFC at all, just because their division is so terrible that they're going to get into the playoffs by default, whether that's at 9-8, whether that's at 10-7. I just don't think they have enough pieces to contend with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Vikings, the Cowboys, the Giants, and some of those teams that are at the top of the NFC right now. Yes, they still have Tom Brady, but this is not the same Buccaneers team that we saw last year. This is not the same Buccaneers team that we saw 2 years ago. It's going to take them a lot more, I think, to be legitimate contenders. That's not to say they won't win a playoff game, because if they win the division, they get that first round at home anyway. So that's not to say they're not going to win a playoff game. But if they get in the playoffs as a 4 seed and then they go and win that first game, do you honestly think they can go into Philadelphia and beat Philadelphia? I don't think they can beat Philadelphia with the team they have established right now.
No, I definitely agree with you. And again, man, the Eagles look pretty damn good this year. We talked about that the other night. Me and Stat Guy did about them, and they're what 8-0, 9-0. Well, I guess now they got played tonight. They played tonight the Commanders. I cannot have for the life of me think that they would lose to the Commanders. I'm advancing them to 9-0, and at 9-0. Man, you're not too far off. What's that, Stat Guy? 8 games from the perfect season?
Yep.
I don't know, man. Hey.
Frankie said the stat guy is wrong. Said the same guy who said Blue Jays going to the World Series.
Oh, damn. Oh, that hurt. I bet that hurt. Jesus, I felt that all the way over here. Vikings literally just got a great win. A good game. Everyone else was lucky with.
Brady will smoke the Vikings. Speaking
Man, you know what though, man? But you know the Buffalo Bills really screwed themselves with that spot in overtime, having 12 men on the field. I mean, they didn't help their chances out too much.
I'll be honest, I didn't see a lot of
that Cowboys thing. He should have gone for that damn field goal. I don't know why he passed up that field goal opportunity.
Because it was a 56-yard field goal, and the kicker was missing from 55 yards in warm-ups. Like 55 was kind of his range, and they were at that 55, 56 spot, so they're just trying to get it inside 50.
I'm still going to take a shot at it, though, Stack. I'm going to give it a shot. They lost anyway. They might as well give it a shot.
They said either way we're going to lose. Might as well give it a shot.
Fuck it. Go out with the blaze of glory, man. Damn.
I'll be honest, I didn't see a lot of the Buffalo Vikings game. I saw some of the highlights, but I was doing a watch along for the Colts and Raiders. But I saw the Vikings did get a big win in that game. Are the Bills starting to fall apart?
Good.
All I can say is Justin Jefferson has established himself as the best receiver in the NFL, and it's not even close. The catch that he made yesterday is the greatest catch that I've seen in my lifetime. I have no idea how he was able to catch it the way he did, how he was able to take it away from the Bills' safety one-handed and still somehow go to the ground without that ball even moving.
Hey, I got breaking news if I can. It's crazy to think this, but it's actually true. It's actually true. That was God calling me to confirm that what I'm thinking is true. And yes, God, you're correct. Jeff Saturday is a better coach than Josh Daniels. I'm just going to put that out there. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Oh, Jeff Saturday. Do your thing, baby. Do your thing.
Yeah. But no, back to we'll get to the Colts here in a minute.
I know. I just had to say that real quick. Hey, I saw that on the thing.
Believe me. Yeah, I have a lot to say about that because of everything. But with the Vikings, do you think the Bills are falling apart, or you just think the Vikings were the better team?
I think the Vikings were the better team for a couple of reasons. Minnesota is 7-0 in one-score games this year. This is the same Minnesota team that was 6-8 in one-score games last year. So the games that they were losing last year, they're actually winning this year. You go to Buffalo. Buffalo is 2-11 in their last 13 games that have been decided by one possession or less. And a big reason for that is when Buffalo wins games, they're typically winning by double digits. So they don't know how to play in these one-score games like Minnesota does. Buffalo had their double-digit lead. I think they kind of got a little complacent at that point. But you still have to give Minnesota credit for the plays they made in that fourth quarter to even put themselves in a position to claw back into that game. And I know everyone's going to criticize Josh Allen for fumbling that snap under a minute left in the end zone, which led to that Minnesota touchdown. And everyone was saying, well, why didn't he just take a knee and take the safety? Well, here's the problem with that if you take a safety. Buffalo would have still had the lead 27-25 if he takes the safety. But Minnesota would also be getting the ball back with 40 seconds left on a safety kick. A safety kick is not a kickoff, it's a punt. So Minnesota would have had to go 25 yards in 40 seconds to set themselves up for a winning field goal. So who's to say if you don't take the safety, you don't lose that game 28-27 anyways?
No,
I think I agree. I think I agree with Tony Gonzalez, man. I think that coach from Buffalo really kind of hurt them in that game as well, man. I mean, that 12 men, too many men on the field, that really put them in a bad spot.
What was this that play in overtime?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't matter anyways because Minnesota only got a field goal out of it.
I know, but I still think it put them in a bad spot, though.
The thing with Justin,
I just think it was simple things like that. The fact they couldn't stop Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had a monster day.
I mean, they actually could stop him. He had an 81-yard touchdown run, and he only finished with 113 yards rushing. So you take away that 81-yard run, he only had like 30 yards rushing. It was Justin Jefferson with 193 yards receiving against supposedly the best secondary in the NFL that torched him. And the thing with Justin Jefferson, too, is this is his third year in the league, and he still has 8 games left of this regular season. He's already got 4,076 career yards receiving. Depending on how things pan out the rest of this year, he has an outside shot to be at 5,000 yards receiving after his first 3 years. He's already broken Odell Beckham's record of 3,700 yards receiving in his first 3 years in the league, and he's broken it by.
I got a question for you. Actually, I got a question. On 113 yards, don't think they really did a good job stopping him.
Yeah, it was an 81-yard run. You take the 81-yard run out, he had 12 carries for like 30 yards.
Hey, there wasn't a safety out there that can outrun Dalvin damn Cook and catch his ass.
No, Cook.
At one point, he was eating some damn food crossing the damn goal line from Wendy's.
Yeah, he's one of the fastest running backs in the NFL. The only two that are faster than him, I believe, are Jonathan Taylor and Mostert. Cook's always been one of the fastest.
Hey, I'm just saying, if a man puts 100 yards, a man puts 100 yards, whether it's 17 times to get there or 4 times to get there, he still got there, damn it.
No, he's still
Stop being a hater. Justin, stop being a hater.
But yeah, like Minnesota, I think Minnesota is finally starting to get a little bit more respect than what they've been given this year. A lot of people have been looking at their record and kind of discrediting their record because of how they're winning games and how every single one of their games, for the most part, is a one-score game. Well, guess what? A win is a win in the NFL. It doesn't matter how you get it. And all these one-score games are going to benefit them once the playoffs start because they're going to know how to play in close games. They're going to know that being in a close game is not an uncomfortable position for them, and they're going to be used to these positions as opposed to a team like Buffalo who's not used to playing in those close games. I mean, who would you trust in a situation if you had a team that's won 11 games with 10 of those 11 games being decided by double digits, or a team that's won 11 games where all 11 wins have been by one possession? I'm trusting the team that's had all one-possession games because they know how to win and when the game is on the line.
Hey, I will tell you, though, Mike Hughes, me and Rob Scott were saying that the Vikings were going to win the NFC back before training camp even got started. The minute that Kevin O'Connell took over that position, we were already calling that. So,
well, I do think the Vikings have been getting overlooked because you don't hear a lot of people talk about the Vikings.
And they've been getting overlooked for one reason. Their quarterback. And yes, Cousins is not having a great year. I'm not going to sit here and say he is. Last year he had 35 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Last year he's already got more interceptions than he had last year this year. But he has 8 interceptions this year, and you got to remember, 2 came yesterday against Buffalo, and then 3 came against Philadelphia in week 2. So 5 of his 8 interceptions came over those 2 games, so he's really only had 3 picks the rest of the way. But he's starting to get to the point now where it's Justin Jefferson or bust, which it's not a bad thing because Adam Thielen still had like 65 yards receiving yesterday. Hawkinson still had about 50 yards receiving yesterday, so he's –
I was going to say, he went to Hawkins.
Yeah, he's still spreading the ball out a lot. But he's at the point now where it's basically how Randy Moss was when Randy Moss first came in the league, where Randy Moss puts his hand up in the air the moment he leaves the line of scrimmage to basically say, I'm open, throw it to me. Cousins is at that point now with Justin Jefferson where it doesn't matter how many guys you have on him. Cousins puts that ball up for grabs. Jefferson's going to come down with it.
Yeah, he's definitely in moments where he has to have a play. He's definitely looking for Jefferson.
That's what I said. How Mike Hughes is listening to Damian Hernandez. Mike, stop. Damn.
Oh yeah, he said Damian saying the Vikings have an easy schedule, but the Eagles are out here playing.
And the Vikings, and I don't know why Damian says the Vikings have an easy schedule because they really don't. Vikings have Dallas next week at home, which Dallas is still a playoff contending team. That's not going to be an easy game. Then they turn right around and get New England on Thursday night at home. That's not an easy game. Right after that, they have the Jets. That's not an easy game. They still have the Giants. They still have the Packers, and they still have the Bears, who have improved a lot since the beginning of the season. Minnesota really does not have that easy of a schedule the rest of the way. They're just fortunate that the Cowboys, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Giants are all at home. So a lot of their tougher opponents are at home where Minnesota is undefeated, but they're still going to be tough games nonetheless where they should all be one-score games the rest of the way.
No, yeah,
I will say, but it is true though. The Eagles at this point in the season, if you look at the remaining of the schedule, truthfully, and there was a I forget the name of the sport agency that came out and said it too, but they verified. They have a fairly easy. The Eagles have a fairly easy schedule to the postseason.
Yeah.
They really don't have too much in the way. I guess maybe Dallas, if they can manage to get back in the right frame of mind, maybe they give them a good challenge. But really, the Eagles should go undefeated.
I mean, not the Eagles.
Eagles are going to
they have
Eagles
Dallas.
lose next week.
They have Dallas, the Titans, and the Giants twice yet for the Eagles.
Yeah, right.
So that's four. That's 4 solid games that the Eagles still have.
And the Eagles are going to lose next week. They're going to lose to the Indianapolis Colts next week.
Hey, listen, I will tell you right now, if that was to happen, I can promise you Gonzo will be so elated that he'll be all over Facebook.
I'll be doing like a 24-hour show if that happens.
Man, he'll be doing a watch-along of how he's going to be able to come off this euphoric high. Wow. Hey, still a good win just Saturday. Damn. Hey, you set up some people, even though it was against the damn Raiders. But, God, that's why I think Logan, he was crying a little bit. Yes, I saw him. He was crying a little. And I think it was because of losing to Jeff Saturday. I mean, that's got to make you cry.
I ain't going to lie. I love it.
It's got to make you cry.
You had all the people talking about how it was a disgrace to the coaching profession and how it was going to be a mess. They weren't going to be able to function. And actually, I know it was against the Raiders, but that's the best the Colts have looked all season on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line actually protected. I know the Raiders I know the Raiders ain't the best team on the defensive line either. I'm not going to sit here and say all the problems.
Is at what point though do the Raiders ownership bring McDaniels back into the room and say, "Yo, bro,
have another closed door meeting"?
You literally lost to a guy with 0 coaching experience. He don't even have like offensive line coaching experience. I mean, he don't even have ball, making sure the balls are all accounted for, head coaching. I mean, this is the guy who has never coached a game in his life, and he just beat you. The fuck?
Well, I think it kind of proves that to Dustin's point that he was saying last week about how the assistants, your offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator can be more important in a way than your head coach.
Hey, and be that as it may,
the guys around them and they all work together.
Because look at what Jeff Saturday. Look what Jeff Saturday did. He goes back to Matt Ryan after Frank Wright benches Matt Ryan for a second-year quarterback who really had no business starting, in my opinion. You bring Matt Ryan back. You have a healthy Jonathan Taylor, and look what happened. The success for the Colts to win is beating Jonathan Taylor.
But I'm saying from Josh McDaniels' standpoint, you're losing to a guy with no head coaching experience. I mean, come on.
Can you really say that Josh McDaniels has any head coaching experience? Because he doesn't know what he's doing.
All I'm saying is it's time for McDaniels to go back to being offensive coordinator is what I'm getting at. At some point, the ownership got to be like, yo, bro.
Hey, let me ask you this. Do you think he'll end up back in New England with Belichick again?
Yeah.
I think so. I think you know what? And if I'm the Raiders, maybe I look at Josh and I'm like, look, Josh, I don't think this head coaching thing's working out for you, but we do know your successes at the offensive coordinator. So how about we just demote and put you at the Raiders offensive coordinator and then bring in a head coach that knows what he's doing. And then I think we'll be fine.
Well, then in the press conference, you have Derek Carr coming out, basically calling out some of the players on the team, saying there's some guys that are giving it all and some that are not. Basically what he said, not in those exact words, but
I'm sure he did.
I just find it funny how everyone thought the AFC West was going to be such a tough division this year, and the AFC East is the one that has 4 teams in the playoff picture right now. And that's because 3 of the coaches in the AFC West have no business being head coaches in the NFL right now. Literally, Brandon Staley, Nathaniel Hackett, and Josh McDaniels have no business being a coach in the NFL right now. The only one that I might give a little credit to is Brandon Staley because he still finished with a winning record last year despite the mistakes he made. But even at that, he really hasn't proven much yet.
He hasn't learned. That's the problem, though. He hasn't learned from the mistakes he made last year.
And the sad part is he will get a mulligan this year because you have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams hurt.
All the injuries. Yep.
So the Chargers have such a banged up roster right now that even if he does make the mistakes he made last year, even if he does finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs
Give
again,
one more year.
he will get one more year because of the injuries they dealt with this year. I don't see Nathaniel Hackett or Josh McDaniels coming back next year. I really don't.
I don't know if McDaniels makes it through the whole season.
Oh, he'll make it through the whole season because I don't think the Raiders can afford to go through what they went through last year with Gruden and Bisaccia.
They should have kept Bisaccia.
They should have, yeah. And I think a lot of people
what a time to be
expected him
alive.
come back.
Daniel Jones has the highest quarterback passer rating in Week 10 at 155 points.
Do you think that could be some of the problem? Is that some of the players wanted to keep Bisaccia and then they went and got McDaniels and it hasn't worked out? You think some of the players are upset about that?
I think some of the players are upset about Davante Adams being there. Because you had an offense that was more balanced when you had Henry Ruggs there before Henry Ruggs decided to turn into Mario Andretti and race into the back of some lady's car. But then you still had Darren Waller, you still had Hunter Renfrow, you had Zay Jones, and you had all these other receivers that Derek Carr was spreading the ball around to. Now it's basically just force-feeding Davante Adams and maybe get Hunter Renfrow involved every now and then. Maybe get Darren Waller.
Hey, Stat Guy, you got to apologize to Mario Andretti. Come on. You can't compare Ruggs to Mario.
I just threw out a name, all right? I just threw out a name.
I'm saying, listen, you owe him an apology, and I will not stand for this blasphemous that you put on Mario Andretti's name. You're going to have to apologize and atone for your sins.
But anyways, I think it got to the point now where Derek Carr is just trying to force feed Davante Adams now, and he's forgetting everybody else on the team. And when you've seen that happen, you saw that happen to Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs last year against the 49ers, where he literally tried to get Davante Adams the ball every single time, and the offense went stale even though other players are wide open. I think Derek Carr has got tunnel vision now for Davante Adams since he's gotten there. The rest of the players outside of Josh Jacobs feel like they're not involved in the offense, and you can see it. Whenever they are called upon, like Hunter Renfrow, he had 2 key drops the last 2 weeks because he's not getting the reps that he was getting last year when he was the more targeted wide receiver.
And then, like yesterday, the Raiders didn't have Renfrow or Waller, which
didn't help. They're both on the IR, aren't they?
I don't think Renfro's. I think Waller is. I don't think Renfro's. I think Renfro's week to week.
Okay. Damian said, "Why is all the blame on Josh McDaniels? Carr's not a good quarterback."
Oh shit!
Carr was in the MVP conversation last year. Carr led the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks last year. Carr is second in the NFL in the last 10 years in fourth quarter comeback wins. He's always been a good quarterback, and he's kind of been in the same conversation as Kirk Cousins, where he never gets the respect he deserves because of the records that he ends up with. Records are records, I get it, but a quarterback is not the sole person to blame for why a team is struggling. You can't blame Kirk Cousins for the Minnesota Vikings going 7-10 last year. Their defense was the worst defense in the NFL, giving up 34 points a game, and yet Cousins played at an MVP level all season. You look at this year, Minnesota's 8-1, but nobody's going to say, oh, it's because Kirk Cousins. No, that's obviously not the reason. It's because Minnesota's figuring out how to win as a team. Derek Carr was the reason why the Raiders made the playoffs last year. He kept that team together after Gruden was fired. He kept that team together when Bisaccia took over, and a lot of the players on that team rallied around him last year. Just because Josh McDaniels came there, you would think that the same players that rallied around him last year would be rallying around him again this year with Davante Adams coming into the picture. Obviously, Josh McDaniels is a big part of the problem because this team looks like a shell of what they looked like last year. And it's pretty much the exact same roster with even additional pieces in Davante Adams and Chandler Jones added to the mix.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be a better team this year, bringing in McDaniels, who's known for being an offensive coordinator. So I figured he'd get that offense going even better than what it was last year. And it's gotten worse.
Well, some people are just really good at being a coordinator, but then you put them into the head coaching spot and they don't have that ability. And I think Josh McDaniels, as great of a coordinator as he is, he just can't transfer it over to the next level of management. You know, he just doesn't do well at that next level. And I don't know if it's play calling or what, on both sides of the ball or what have you, or maybe it's just a culture in which Josh McDaniels is fostering as a head coach, but he just is not able to convert to that next higher level of management.
You think maybe that he's trying to maybe trying to act like Bill Belichick too much, trying to run that system like that was in New England, and maybe that could be part of it?
I don't think so. I think it's more of going from a coordinator to a head coach instead of just overseeing the offense and basically kind of running the offense the way you want to do it. Now you're overseeing the offense. Now you're overseeing the defense. Now you're overseeing the other 12 head coaches on your staff. When McDaniels was an offensive coordinator, he literally had to run the offense. He had 2 or 3 coaches underneath him, like the quarterback coach, the running back coach, and a wide receiver coach that really don't do anything. All they do is talk to the positional players after the series and just kind of show them film. And then all Josh McDaniels had to do was talk to Bill Belichick as to what he wanted to do on the next series. Now he wants to run the offense even though he's the head coach. He's got all these defensive coaches now coming up to him and kind of talking to him about what they want to do on defense. I think he's in a position where it's just too much information to him retain as a head coach. He likes to just have things be simple where it's just I pay attention to the offense, you pay attention to the defense, and we go from there. Now it's like everyone's coming at me at one time about what they want to do here, what they want to do here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just trying to listen to everybody, and it's not working.
Yeah, I can see that.
No, I can see that. And a lot of it is, to me, is just leadership. Your head coach, he has to be a great leader. He has to be able to get all your other coaches, like you said, you have to worry about everything. I just don't know if he's that type of leader. I think I agree with you guys. He's more an offensive coordinator where all he has to do is worry about the offense and don't have to worry about everything, all the other stuff that goes with being a head coach.
Yeah, and it's not only that, too. It's like I said last week, too, that a head coach is only as good as what his assistants are.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
If you put yourself on a team with a great coaching staff, it doesn't matter how much success you have as a head coach, those assistant coaches can really make you a better coach. And if you look at the staff that Josh McDaniels has put together, the offensive coordinator is Mick Lombardi. None of the offensive coaches outside of Edgar Bennett, the wide receiver coach, really has much NFL experience as a head coach, and Edgar Bennett really didn't do much when he was with the Packers as the wide receiver head coach. The defensive coordinator is Patrick Graham, and then the senior defense assistant is Rob Ryan. Why is Rob Ryan not your defensive coordinator? Why is he your senior defensive assistant? And why is Rob Ryan not your assistant head coach? That should be the one right there that's your assistant head coach that you can lean on for any advice. And if he was your defensive coordinator, you wouldn't have to worry about a damn thing on defense because he'd be running the defense and doing his own thing. So even though you're the head coach, you could work hand in hand with your offensive coordinator and offensive coaching staff to run the system you want to run because Rob Ryan could do whatever he wants to do on defense and you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Kind of like what Tampa Bay had with Arians as head coach and Bowles as defensive coordinator.
Yeah, like Arians as the head coach and Leftwich was the offensive coordinator, but yet Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator. Arians never had to worry about anything on defense. He would literally talk to Byron Leftwich and kind of get on the same page with what he wanted to do because he trusted Todd Bowles to do his own thing on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Damien says QB are the captains of the team. They're the ones that are supposed to lead the team to win games and championships.
Hey, can you keep that post up there for a minute, please? Didn't Cousins lead Minnesota yesterday on multiple occasions when they were down by 17 points? Didn't Cousins lead them in multiple occasions this year when they were down by double digits in the fourth quarter? Hasn't Cousins done that the last 2 years and single-handedly kept Minnesota in the game? Yes, the quarterbacks are the captains, but just because you're the captains doesn't mean jack shit if the rest of your team is terrible. Trevor Lawrence is the captain of the Jaguars. Now, we're going to sit here and say he's a terrible quarterback in the second year of his NFL career because he really hasn't much of a team around him? No, you're not going to say that because it's all a matter of the coaches and the talent that you have put around you.
Yep, I agree. And I think I said it earlier in the preseason. Now I think Cousins is a top 10 quarterback in the league.
I don't think he is. I don't think he is this year because he hasn't played like it this year. But if you go based off of what he did last year he was definitely a top 10 quarterback last year, and he was even teetering on top 5 range last year if you put his numbers against the quarterbacks that finished in the top 5 last year. This year,
I think that if Josh McDaniels was to go back to New England, I think, number one, I think you're going to see this coaching carousel stop. I think Mac Jones does go back to being, the starting quarterback, and I think he continues to be developed underneath Josh McDaniels. When he played under Josh McDaniels, he was fine, no issue. Josh McDaniels leaves, they get this Matt Patricia, Judge Droz.
Well, see, that's the problem, though. That's the problem, though. Matt Patricia was always a defensive coordinator in New England.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
And Joe Judge was a special teams coach in New England. Like, none of those guys had any offensive coaching experience, so I don't understand why. Like, yes, I get why they wanted to go back with Belichick, but why wouldn't you put him back in the position that they were at before when you were having the most success you had? Like, Patricia was always at defense.
And I really believe once Josh McDaniels left, the rest of the development that Mac Jones needed, the Zappy kid, what he needs, all that left. And now you've just got this void of no experienced personnel to continue to develop, your stud, quarterback. So, of course, they're going to go down. It's crazy.
If Josh McDaniels goes back to New England, I'm not going to be surprised if the Raiders go after Flores.
They should go after Flores. I've been preaching Flores for a long time now. I would love to see him get another shot at the head coach because I tell you, that guy's going to turn your team around. It's going to be like what Dable is over there right now with New York Giants. Look what Dable's done with the Giants. And I think Flores will do the same damn thing. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be mad if the Colts brought in Flores.
I bet you wouldn't.
And the one thing
Cowboys brought him in.
And the one thing with Flores too, Flores had a great staff in Miami. So if he goes to be the coach in Vegas, he's going to get a good staff to come with him where he's not going to have to worry about the offense. He's not going to worry about the defense just because he's going to have those two coordinators that he can trust to do those things for him, and he's just going to basically oversee everything.
See, that's what
I just need to see Mike McCarthy leave.
That's what some of the reports coming out of Indianapolis was yesterday too about Saturday was that he empowered the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator guys, basically let them do their jobs and wasn't like strangling them saying no, you have to do it this way. He was letting them do their jobs and he was just doing his job.
He had to. He didn't really have a
That's the problem I have with a lot of. That's the problem I have with a lot of NFL coaches nowadays. If you want to be the head coach, be a head coach. Don't be a head coach and an offensive play caller like Frank Wright was, or don't be a head coach and a defensive coordinator like Todd Bowles is right now in Tampa Bay. If you want to be a head coach, be a head coach and then give yourself coordinators. That's what coordinators are for. They're there to assist you, but they're also there to run the offense and run the defense. Your job as a head coach is to listen to what they want to do and give them input. It's not to run an offense and run the team. And I think that's I think a lot of teams are starting to regret that.
It's like in any other management structure.
Yeah.
If you're a store manager, you have your assistant managers running the show. All you're there to do is capitalize on profit margins and things like that, right? That's our focus is profitability of the store. Everybody else does the actual tasking. And that's what a head coach is just to say, hey, look, I see the offense is kind of struggling here, and here from what I'm looking at. We didn't make these tweaks, and then the offensive coordinator will go look at game film, he'll study it up, and he'll be like, yeah, I see those same things too. And then he's just supposed to be an oversee guy,
And too many NFL coaches nowadays are.
He's not supposed to be there hands-on and all things running.
Yeah, and too many coaches nowadays are doing too much because they've been used to being a coordinator for so long. They don't want to give that up, even though they're a head coach.
Because the head coach at that point doesn't see the big picture.
Yeah.
He only sees that small picture.
Yeah, that's why. If you want to be a head coach, be a head coach and do what you need to do as a head coach. Stop worrying about the offense. Stop worrying about the defense. Just go there and coach and let your coordinators do what they're being paid to do. That's what they're there for.
That's why those interview processes, when you bring in offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, you find out the philosophy, you find out, if all the checks and balances work out, that's where you get that initial, okay, this is the guy. And then you just oversee things and make little tweaks and here and there or whatever,
Why do you think Minnesota's gone through 7 offensive coordinators the last 7 years? It's because none of the offensive coordinators could work with Mike Zimmer because Mike Zimmer was trying to run the defense and the offense and be the head coach instead of letting the coordinators do what they're there to do. Bring in Kevin O'Connell. Yes, he's been the offensive coordinator the last 3 years in Los Angeles, But he hired a guy to be the offensive coordinator in Minnesota, and he's letting that offensive coordinator do his own thing.
Yeah.
That's something
And
that they have
that's
to.
what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, and to me, the number one quality that you need when you're looking for a head coach is a leader. If you have a guy that's a leader, that's the number one quality. If he could, because that's basically what a coach is. You're leading. You're the lead guy over all your assistants and players and all that. And like you guys are saying, let your coordinators do their job. I think that's what Saturday brought to the Colts this weekend was he let everybody do their job instead of trying to run everything. Because that's my biggest thing about Frank Reich was he ran a team as he was an offensive coordinator because he was still calling the plays. He was so worried about that he didn't manage other things, manage the game because he was so worried about the offense.
I mean, Matt Ryan, him reinstating Matt Ryan was the best thing he could have done. If you want to have the best opportunity to win a game, Matt Ryan gives you that. He may not be the best in the league, but for that team, he is the best. And Ellinger, if you're going to put Ellinger in, that to me, when they put Ellinger in, okay, I was like, okay, they're straight tanking. They're straight going to the bottom and trying to maybe get another quarterback. Because why else would you leave Matt Ryan for a guy who, quite honestly, has no game experience unless you're just throwing in the towel?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I woke up yesterday. I hadn't seen that he was starting Ryan. And we get ready to start to watch along. The game starts and Matt Ryan runs. I was like, what the hell's going on here? Because last I heard,
was going to start this. You got happy again.
Hey, we'll see what they look like against the Eagles. I just want, as long as they're competitive again. We were losing games because of we were beating ourselves. Offensive line couldn't block, stuff like that. Offensive line looked better, but we'll see how the offensive line can hold up against that Eagles defensive front because the Eagles have a lot better defensive front than the Raiders do.
Hey, I'll take that money line for the Eagles to win. How much you want to put down, Gonzo?
I hadn't even looked at the odds yet. Wait, you think the Packers are going to be able to do anything? Think they're going to turn anything around after looking like their offense might have finally found its way a little bit yesterday against the Cowboys?
The next two games I think will be telling because they get Tennessee at home on Thursday night, and then the week after that they get Philadelphia. So if they can win those two games and get back to 6-6, then they're putting themselves in position to get that final wild card spot in the NFC. And we all know what happens in the playoffs. If you get into the field, anything can happen. And they still have Aaron Rodgers. Granted, his playoff record hasn't been that great since he won the Super Bowl, but they still have Aaron Rodgers. And if he gets into the playoffs, anything can happen. If Green Bay goes 0-2 over the next two games, I think they're done. I don't think they make the playoffs with 8 losses at that point. And if they go 1-1 and get to 5-7, it's going to be an uphill battle just because I think Dallas and the Giants are pretty much cemented to get 2 of those wild cards. And then that final wild card spot is going to come down to San Francisco and Green Bay most likely. And right now San Francisco's sitting at 5-4. So San Francisco already has a 2-game lead on Green Bay as it is right now.
San Francisco's getting help. San Francisco's
getting healthy, and they already have a 2-game lead on Green Bay right now. So in my opinion, if Green Bay wants any shot at the playoffs at this point, they cannot lose more than one more game. They have to go. If they lose one more game and finish 10-7, they have a shot to get in. But if they go 9-8, I don't think they can get in because right now, Minnesota being 8-1, Minnesota wins two of their games the rest of the way. Packers basically have to go unbeaten the rest of the season to pass Minnesota. So at this point, I think Green Bay is kind of content on, well, we're not going to win the division, so we need to figure out what we got to figure out to make the playoffs, and that basically means pretty much winning out and only losing one more game. And if they lose one more game, I think it'll be against Philly or at Miami late in the year. Those could probably be – I would say right now they beat Tennessee Thursday, they lose to Philly, and they lose to Miami, which gives them 8 losses. So at that point, they're going to need a lot of help. But I think the rest of the schedule Green Bay can win, including Minnesota at the end of the year. But at that point, I don't think it's going to matter because I think Minnesota is going to have the number 2 seed locked up because they already have, 3-game lead over Seattle, a 4-game lead over Tampa for that number 2 seed. So I think pretty much the top 2 seeds in the NFC are going to be Philadelphia and Minnesota, and then the next 2 are going to be just tiebreaker scenarios for the NFC West and the NFC South.
Yeah, Anthony Price, he says, "What's up with Chicago?" Like I said to you earlier, man. Look, I'm just waiting for McCarthy to get fired so we can get Sean Payton. That's what I said. Hey, look, I see maybe the Cowboys getting a wild card, but at this point, Anthony Price, I'm just waiting for McCarthy to get fired. That's it. That's all. That's the best I could. If he gets fired, I'm gonna literally go outside. I'm gonna find the nearest cop car and I'm gonna set it on fire. No, I'm not looking to do that, but
So you put the loss yesterday more on McCarthy.
I just think it's a lot of play calling things that I'm just done with. I've been done with McCarthy. I just don't think he has it in him to get the Cowboys to the promised land. I don't see it. I just don't. And I said that when they hired him. I hated it from the moment they announced his hiring, and I'll say it until he's fired. I just want him gone. I want him gone. I want Sean Payton in there. And even if we can't get a Sean Payton, I want a young guy. I want like a Sean McVay or just somebody that can bring youth and creativity, to this team. Because right now, if you look at the Cowboys offense, there's hardly any motion at all. There's no deceptiveness. There's no, you kind of already know what the Cowboys are going to do. They're going to run it, or they're going to do a slant. But there's no motion. There's no deception at all in their offense, and I hate it. I just freaking hate it.
Would you want a college coach, Jay?
It depends. Depends on which college coach we're talking about.
Lincoln Riley?
I can see Lincoln. I like Lincoln when he was back in Oklahoma.
If you're saying you want a young coach, that's the problem right there. Kellen Moore would be the one that's in line to replace McCarthy. Do you trust Kellen Moore more than you trust Mike McCarthy?
If I was interviewing Kellen Moore and I said, "Hey, Kellen Moore," and this is after Mike McCarthy had been fired, I said, "Tell me about how you would change the offense, or what would you do differently with the offense now that McCarthy is not here? If you were the head coach, what would you want to see more out of your offense?" And if the first word out of his mouth is, "I want to see more motion and deception," then yes, I would give him the head coaching. But if he says, something other than that, I'd be like, "Nah, you're out of here."
I think the biggest mistake the Cowboys made was getting rid of Amari Cooper. And I hate to say that, but you get rid of Amari Cooper, it's basically CeeDee Lamb and nobody else in the receiving corps, because Michael Gallup is decent, but he's not a true number 2.
I mean, honestly, let's be real. I agree with what you're saying. I feel like one of those guys had to go. And I think Cooper, because what he does for double teams and taking the pressure off of like a CD or a Gallup or whatever, I understand your viewpoint. Me personally, I wanted to see Zeke go out of the 3 guys.
That's what I'm saying. They should have gotten rid of Zeke, started Tony Pollard, and be done with it. They should have They should have traded Zeke, started Pollard, and re-signed Cooper, and then ran it out with CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup with Pollard in the backfield. That's what the Cowboys should have did.
And then you still would have had a young guy like Colbert, probably Brown, to give those guys breaks or whatever. So, I mean, you would have had a nice, and then you got Dalton Schultz too. So, I mean, I think Zeke is the one that has killed this team more than anything, just for his lack of production.
Well, lack of production and the contract that he has, or no one's going to take him. I think that's the part that the Cowboys screwed themselves with, where if Zeke would have been a little bit more affordable, I'm not saying like $5-6 million, but if he would have been around like that $8 or $9 million mark as opposed to the 15 that he's at right now, I guarantee you somebody would have traded for Zeke if he's around $8 or $9 million as opposed to 14. And then if they do that, the extra money that you're saving, you could have re-signed Cooper, you could have started Tony Pollard, and you could have brought in a guy like Jeff Wilson Jr. as his backup. You could have brought in a guy like Mostert as his backup, or a lot of these running backs that have been backups in their career and now are just kind of in that platoon system. You could have brought in somebody like that with Pollard.
It was so bad. I would have been willing to say, you know what, I will give you Zeke for, Wilson or, whoever you want to trade for. And then on top of that, just to offset the crazy contract, I'll give you some cash too. Whatever it takes to make it work. I just got to get Zeke the hell out of here.
Damien
I knew the
says,
minute he put that damn nose ring in his mouth or in his nose, and he started making his hair. He started making his hair look like a mushroom cap. I was like, okay.
Every time I see Zeke with his cut off undershirt, he makes me think of one of those cheerleaders from The Longest Yard.
Bro, I'm just saying, man. When you're concerned about these little weird oddities that you're, putting in your body, I can't take you seriously anymore. All I want to do is go to that nose and yank that fucker out.
Damien says Sean Payton is Mike McCarthy 2.0. Why would anyone want him as a coach? He only has one Super Bowl on his resume and haven't done anything since then.
Why would anybody want him? He constantly got his team to the playoffs without a defense, built a Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees.
How about were the Saints before Sean Payton got there?
Not only that too, but he single-handedly is the reason why Drew Brees is a Hall of Fame quarterback. If it wasn't for Sean Payton, Drew Brees wouldn't be who Drew Brees is. So you bring Sean Payton into Dallas. I'm not saying Dak Prescott's going to turn into the next Drew Brees, but I'm pretty sure Dak Prescott's going to be a lot better and a lot more consistent with Sean Payton there as opposed to Mike McCarthy.
No,
I don't know. I think Dak wants to win. I think he let Zeke go. If it meant him being able to win and keep Amari Cooper, and then, hey, at the end of the day, it's not Dak's damn choice.
Mm-mm.
They're going to do what's best for the team. And Damien, you don't know how bad I really want to say what I want to say, but if I say what I want to say, it can be politically, harmful to myself. So I'm going to keep my thoughts and opinions to myself. By the way, I'm going to put it in the chat so some other people can laugh. But damn it, man, son, you come up with the weirdest shit.
Oh, my goodness. Reggie Bush made Drew Brees, not Sean Payton.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. Ooh, okay. Damien, sometimes. Got me all messed up. I put the wrong pin in my phone. But no, what I was going to go to was Baker Mayfield going to get the start again for Carolina with Walker hurt. Do you think maybe Baker can come out and play good and maybe get that starting job back?
Yeah, I do. And if you look at how he played in what game was that? The game where they got their doors blown off him a couple weeks ago when he came into the second half and had like 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I can't think of who they were.
Last week. I can't remember who they played now. But
the team before they played Atlanta, the game that he came in and they threw 2 touchdown passes in the second half. He was 16-22 for $156 and 2 touchdowns in the second half. I think a lot of Baker Mayfield's struggles had to do with Matt Rule this year, and Matt Rule not having any idea of how to be a head coach, similar to Josh McDaniels. So I would kind of like to see what Baker Mayfield looks like under Steve Wilks, and kind of under Steve Wilks' system, under that new offensive coordinator system, and see if it makes a difference. Now, if Mayfield goes out and starts winning football games all of a sudden for Carolina's going to be in a predicament. Do you keep Mayfield for another year and see if you have something in him with the new offensive coordinator, or you try to draft a younger quarterback and give the job to maybe Matt Corral next year? I don't know. But if Mayfield can go in there, that division is still very winnable. Carolina's not that far off of the pace by Tampa Bay right now. So if Mayfield all of a sudden starts to have success with Steve Wilks and that new offensive coordinator, it's going to put Carolina in an interesting position next year when they're looking for a quarterback.
The good news is Baker at least has, 5-6 games to really show what he can do with this Carolina team before they even have to get to that decision making at the draft. I think if Baker,
if he goes 5-3 his last 8 games, or even 4-4 his last 8 games, Carolina finishes 7-10 or 8-9. That puts Carolina in a very interesting position heading into next season, knowing that, yes, we may have been 8-9, but we won 6 games with Mayfield as our quarterback as opposed to 2 games with everybody else. So what does that tell you? That tells you that Matt Rule was the problem and not Baker Mayfield.
And I'll tell you right now, with Foreman, since McCaffrey left and Foreman running out of his shoes, you got a good run game. Hey, you got a good run game. You got Moore and you got Marshall. I mean, he still has enough receivers to do something with, and he's got a run game he can count on. And if he has the right offensive coordinator, And if Baker can just play Baker, man, that team they can write that ship, and Baker can get back to that promised land.
Yeah, I know.
And
You think Carolina has a chance to win the division?
Conte, you got to use a big boy.
They're only 2 games behind Tampa Bay right now.
Hello to you too, Jay.
They're only 2 games behind.
I can barely hear you, man. I don't know if you're under the sheets, hiding from the cops, or what, man. But damn, you your boys, Bubba.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
a little bit. That's a little bit better now. Does this sound like he under the sheets though?
No, I mean for real, because
I don't know. All I hear is sheets moving around and muffled voice. I'm just asking the question.
Can you hear me?
That's much better.
All right.
There you go. So, I think Carolina's played better since they got rid of Rule.
they have, and that's the thing now. Like, if Mayfield wouldn't have gotten hurt, and they would have had to stick with Mayfield, who knows if Carolina would be in first place right now? We don't know that because Carolina's only 2 games off that pace, but you got to remember they were 0-4 when Mayfield went down and they had to go with P.J. Walker. I mean, even if they go 2-2, they're 5-5, same record as Tampa Bay. That division is still up for grabs no matter how you want to look at it. I understand that Tom Brady is the best quarterback in that division by far. But that division is still up for grabs for anybody right now, and all it takes is for one of these teams to get hot at the right time, and who knows, maybe Mayfield is that guy that all of a sudden gets Carolina to get hot at the right time.
But my question is, do you think Tampa Bay is not getting hot at the right time?
I still don't trust Tampa Bay.
2 games straight? Okay, I understand that.
I still don't trust Tampa Bay yet just because this Tampa Bay roster, outside of losing Rob Gronkowski, is pretty much the exact same roster that they've had the last 2 years.
I think their secondary is just banged up.
Yeah, their second. I'm just talking on the offensive side, though.
Offensive side, I get with the Gronkowski. Honestly, how I think about Tampa Bay is, one, I think with Todd Bowles, their offense is very one-dimensional. And 2,
he doesn't do anything with the offense, so it's still Byron Leftwich.
But compared to what BA could do, the offense isn't the same. I understand Brian Leftwich. And 2, I just think sometimes some of them games were just bad scenarios. And I think due to the fact that Tom Brady, he missed a lot of the offseason, I think he's getting the sound and getting the voice. Because the thing is, Tampa Bay, they've been pretty bad, but it's not like they just get blown out or you're not in the game a lot. They just make the terrible mistakes. I think Tom Brady's now getting his groove back. Playing a few of his games, he's mid-season. He's 5-5. And I still got the division. I've been playing some of my worst football I've played in my career, and I think Tampa Bay's gonna hit the run. I'm not saying they're gonna be NFC.
Well, I think one of the problems in Tampa is it's that offensive line. Because if you look at the offensive line, Fournette's not running the ball like he used to run the ball. The holes aren't really always there for him. So I think a lot of that really is that offensive line.
But the thing with the Panthers too is if you look at their first 2 games, they lost to Cleveland by 2 points in week 1. They lost to the Giants by 3 points in week 2. You give them those 2 wins right there, they're 5-5. So it's not like Carolina is that far off. They beat the Saints. They lost to the Cardinals by 10, but that was a tie game heading into the fourth quarter. They lost to the Rams by 14, but that was a 13-10 game heading into the fourth quarter. So there's really only been 2 games where the Panthers have pretty much been blown out. And then they also crushed Tampa Bay 21-3. So Carolina really is not that far off. And if you give them those 2 early season wins against Cleveland and the Giants, Carolina is actually in first place at 5-5 ahead of Tampa Bay because they have the head-to-head.
You know what I wonder too? Giselle made more money than Tom. She's actually worth more money than Tom.
Yeah, she does.
I wonder if Tom asked for spousal support when they left.
Isn't she worth like $300 million?
No, she's worth more around the 400.
She's worth like $400 or $500 million.
Yeah.
Damn.
Hey, she's telling Tom all the time, who's your daddy? Who's your daddy, Tom? Who's your daddy?
But I can see Carolina winning it. I'm not going to say they don't have a chance, but I believe Tampa Bay, hopefully, I might be wrong. I'm just going by my gut. Maybe it's the nostalgia of number 12 over there. I just don't see nobody else winning that division other than him.
The division most likely could possibly go to the Bucks, but the problem is once you get past the division, that's kind of where no pun intended, but that's kind of where the buck stops.
Mm-hmm.
With the 49ers getting healthy, do you think they could be contenders in the NFC?
I don't want to talk about the 49ers after that performance yesterday.
Hey, you should want to talk about the 49ers
Hey,
because
listen, I'm a
that's
Cowboys
one more
fan.
loss
I'm
added to
a
Staley to get out
Cowboys.
the door.
I honestly think watching that game though made me realize the Eagles are far ahead of everybody in the NFC, besides the Vikings. I think the
I'm about
Vikings.
to say, I think the Vikings.
They beat the Vikings.
That might be their Achilles heel, though.
They beat the Vikings, but the Vikings, I think, just had that bad game.
Yeah, Vikings played
I
terrible.
think Vikings just had a bad game that game.
And it wasn't even that they played a terrible game. The score says 24-7.
But when you turn the ball over 3 times.
But the second quarter of that game was 21-0 Philly. You take away that second quarter, Minnesota outscored them 7-3 the last 3 quarters. So I mean, they had one bad quarter, which makes that game look a lot worse than what it was.
Yeah, Dustin, you should like to take things away. You take away that
and
one.
Also, Kirk Cousins throwing 4 interceptions.
Yeah,
kind of a big
yeah, that was all 4 of those interceptions came in the second quarter.
Take away that one
he could have
quarter.
threw more also.
You take away that one quarter.
I look at things more than what the score looks at.
Hey,
Jay.
look, there's lots of things I'd like to take away from Dallas. You take away that one damn head coach, and we're
Well,
pretty
no,
good.
I get it, but whenever I look at games, I don't just look at the score and say, "Oh, this team got blown out." Because if you look at the Minnesota-Philadelphia game, Minnesota had more yards than them. Minnesota had a longer
one
time
no
of possession.
hitter, and the Phillies might won the World Damn Series.
But I'm just saying in football, I don't look at the score. I look at box scores to see how close the game actually was because a lot of times.
Scores, are you that kind of analyst? You look up. That's how you.
No, because I don't look at what an individual.
Watch the football game.
No, I don't look at what an individual player does because a lot of times the score is not indicative of how a game begins.
Not everything in life is ones and zeros.
No,
you actually got to watch the game.
No,
see how
the numbers don't. The numbers
a little bit.
The numbers sometimes do lie.
But Jay, I remember you saying if Cooper Rush throw them 3.
I haven't been messing with you. Why are you messing with me,
saying,
man?
It's like the same thing with Dallas and Philly. If Cooper Rush didn't throw them 2 interceptions in his own territory, the game would have been differently.
Yeah, numbers and
I learned all about that Cooper Rush shit. Okay, that was a rough game out there in Philly.
Football to me is the only sport where numbers can lie. Just because a score can be one way, but if you look at the overall numbers, they don't match up. Because I think the game was last week in the NFL. I can't remember what game it was, but one team had 189 yards of offense. The other team had 395 yards of offense. And the team that had 189 yards of offense won 20-14. If you would not show the score, and just pull up the team stats and you would be like, who won the game? Everyone would be pointing to the team that had 390 yards. But it's just the fact that they had 2 early turnovers in their own territory, which led to 14
I'm about to say
points.
that when you're giving 2 interceptions to a team and you're in your own 20 yard line. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
You're in the red zone.
That's what I'm saying, though. If you go back to that Philadelphia game against Minnesota when Minnesota lost 24-7, 3 of Cousins' 4 interceptions came in his own territory. So it's not like Philadelphia had a long field to go to get points. The only drives that Philadelphia had to go more than 40 yards resulted in a field goal and 2 punts. Everything else is under 50 yards that they had to do against Minnesota, and it's not that hard to score points when you have to go less than 50 yards.
And perfect example of what Dustin was saying about numbers can lie. If you look at that Buffalo Bills and Dolphins game earlier in the season where the Bills had over 400 yards of offense.
And Dolphins had like 212.
They had 200, but they lost the game.
Yeah. Football is the only sport where numbers lie in football because the score sometimes is not indicative of how a team played. It has to do with certain turnovers in certain situations where you turn the ball over.
If you want to see somebody win a game, you got to look at the turnover. Turnover differential. Because most of the time, the team that turns the ball over the most, 9 times out of 10 is losing that game.
Yep.
But with the 49ers, the 49ers
prime time.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins had some prime
But
time.
if Damian wants to go a little bit further on that, Kirk Cousins is 5-2 in his last 7 primetime games. So it's not like he's as terrible as he once was before he got to Minnesota.
I
He's
agree,
5-2
Tony.
in his
Philly's
last
good,
7.
but you can run the ball. I think that's a lot of teams' weakness this year. Buffalo, you can run the ball on them. Miami, you can run the ball on them. Philly, you can run the ball on them. Dallas, you can run the ball on them.
Kansas City.
Kansas City, you can run the ball on them. All the best teams in football, if their kryptonite is run offense. That's
Besides Minnesota. Minnesota's a top 5 team against the run, but they're 30th against the pass.
I was going to say Minnesota.
You want to beat Minnesota, you pass the ball, you don't run the ball. And the problem with Buffalo was I think Buffalo got too used to running the ball early in that game last year, where if you listen to Patrick Peterson's interview after the game, he basically said he knew exactly what Josh Allen was going to do on his 2 interceptions that he had on Josh Allen. So he basically stood exactly where Josh Allen was going to throw the ball, and the ball ended up going right to him 2 separate times.
Anthony says, question, are the Eagles a true number 1, or would you put the Chiefs or Bills over them?
They're undefeated. I can't say nothing about their schedule, but that's not fair. We gotta start putting Minnesota after that Buffalo one in the game. Minnesota right now, Eagles and Minnesota are playing like the best top 2 teams in football. Only reason I don't put KC in there is just because they lost to the Colts.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that loss to the Colts, if it would have been anybody else besides I'm saying besides one of them bottom tier teams.
Ew.
Deontay, are you on board with saying that Justin Jefferson has fully cemented himself as the best receiver in the NFL?
Best?
After that catch that he made yesterday?
I seen D-Hop with Colt McCoy look like a stud yesterday. I don't know, man. He's in my top 3. He's in my top 3.
Can you believe that if he averages 105 yards a game the rest of the season, that he's going to have 5,000 yards receiving after just 3 years?
That's a crazy number.
He's at 4,089 yards receiving right now, and the season's only halfway over. He legitimately has a shot to get to 5,000 yards after 3 years.
I mean, Jefferson's nice. He's top 3 to me. I just don't think.
What receiver was this?
Justin Jefferson right now has 4,079 yards in 2.5 years. If he averages like 105 yards the rest of the way, he has 5,000 yards receiving after his first 3 years.
I would take Hill over Jefferson, but Hill's playing out.
The only reason why I would not put Hill over Jefferson is because he has Jalen Waddle next to him. Jalen Waddle is the number 1 receiver on any other team. Miami legitimately has 2 number 1 receivers, Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. Take your pick who you want.
You can't do that because you got Dalvin Cook can take the run off, and then you still got Adam Thielen on the other side. And Adam Thielen's not having the best season this year.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, Thielen hasn't done what Jalen Waddle has done.
Jalen Waddle, he's on pace to have like 1,500 yards.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, Miami legitimately has 2 number 1 receivers. Minnesota has 1 and then a bunch of number 2s and number 3s.
I got D-Hop.
I put D-Hop in front of Hill.
I got D-Hop my number 1. My number 2, it's a tie between Diggs and Jefferson. Those are my 2 and 3. It's a tie between them 2. And then 4, I'll put Hill in my 4. Just
you put Hill in
based off the production of this year, Chris, he's on the pace for 2,000 yards receiving.
Oh, no, I know. I'm just saying, would you put Hill over Devontae Adams?
Damn.
Yeah, because we're starting to see that Aaron Rodgers also helped make Devontae Adams what he was.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm not saying Devontae Adams is not
he's still productive.
Yeah, I'm not saying Devontae Adams isn't like a top 5 receiver or anything like that, but everyone that kept saying that Adams is the number 1 receiver, it's like he may have been the number 1 receiver because of who his quarterback was. He's not a top 3 receiver if he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball.
He's still a top 10. I don't think he's a top
10. He's still a top 10, but he's not a top 3 like everyone was saying.
I don't think he's top 3 anymore.
No, he's not top 3 because he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball.
Tariq proved that he's in his top without Mahomes. I understand he has Waddle on the other side, but he's still on a pace for 2,000 yards receiving. Having a like 1,200 yard receiving is still ridiculous.
Yeah, so right now through 10 games or 9 games, depending on if you've had a bye week yet or not, Tyreek Hill leads the NFL with 1,148 yards, and Justin Jefferson is second at 1,090. So you could have 2 receivers right now with 2,000 yards before the year is over. And Justin Jefferson has 38 or 48 less yards on like 11 less catches.
No, nobody says anything about Jefferson.
But I'm just saying, can you imagine if you have two receivers finish with 2,000 yards though?
I'll be shocked.
Anthony says it's Tua or Geno in anybody's top 5 QBs right now.
Geno's playing like a top. He's playing like a top 5. Geno's playing like a top 5. I could say that this year.
I say both.
Geno and who?
Tua.
Yeah, Tua's an MVP candidate.
Just because Miami is 7-0 and Tua is a starting quarterback this year, and they're 12-1 in their last 13 games with Tua.
Yeah, but I say Tua's an MVP candidate. I wouldn't say he's the MVP due to the fact that he has.
No, I wouldn't say he's an MVP, but I'd say they're both top 5 quarterbacks. If you're looking at quarterback play this year, you have to put them both in there.
Both, especially Geno. Geno's winning comeback of the year. I think it's not even close. I'll put Pete Carroll in that race for coach of the year, but most likely it's going to be Dable.
Or O'Connell.
Nah, New York is terrible, bro. That roster was awful.
Well, I know it was.
But
if Minnesota makes it to,
if Minnesota wins the conference, I'll have him win coach. But I think Dable, if he just gets the Giants in the playoffs,
yeah,
he's that coach of the year due to the fact.
Seattle's already saying they want to extend Geno Smith.
When you ever thought Daniel Jones was a playoff quarterback where he can make it to the playoffs, and he turned down his turnovers? I never thought Daniel Jones could do that. With the poor wide receiving core, Saquon's running like crazy, and that defense is playing very sound.
Mm-hmm.
That's just straight coaching up in New York.
Yeah, and the thing with Geno Smith too, Seattle already says they want to extend Geno Smith.
I think Geno Smith, what he's doing is like what Pete Carroll said. One, he's listening to everything the coaches got to say, and two, it's just a system is run. You're gonna play action, and you got 2 studs on the side of you. Just because Kenneth Walker looked like he's a very solid running back. You have, and then plus, I'm not gonna lie, they hit the lottery. They had a very good draft.
Mm-hmm.
With Cody Bryant,
thank the Broncos for that.
You got Tariq Woolen. They have a very sound draft.
Yeah, thank the Broncos for that.
Hey, the Broncos won yesterday, so can't even talk about them.
But one team is 6-3, the other team is.
Yeah, the Broncos are. But who's the most disappointing team in football though this year?
For me or for everybody?
I'll say for everybody. For me, I'll say Las Vegas.
I was gonna say Las Vegas or the Broncos, but I never
would say Las Vegas.
I'd say Las Vegas or the Broncos, but then again, I never had confidence in Nathaniel Hackett.
I thought the Broncos were gonna be better than they were.
Oh, I didn't. I even said the only reason why Nathaniel Hackett was hired was because he was hired to bring in Aaron Rodgers. And when he couldn't get it done, I knew that he was going to pretty much be a one-and-done coach. I don't even think Hackett will be back next year.
I think Las Vegas just shows Josh McDaniels will never be a coach in the NFL.
Oh, heck no.
In the NFL again.
No.
He'll be a good offensive coordinator, though, up in New England.
That's where he's going. He'll go back to New England.
Oh, he's going back to New England as the OC.
Nobody's going to hire Josh McDaniels as an OC after what happened in Vegas. The only team that will take him back is New England.
Yeah, but because it looks bad up there. I don't know. I can see Josh. He's like one of them dudes. Like, for example, Norv Turner was a very good offensive coordinator, but a terrible head coach. I just think it's the same thing with Josh McDaniels. Very good offensive coordinator, terrible coach.
Anthony Price said Geno Smith will get a deal before Lamar.
He's not wrong.
Yeah,
he's not.
He's not wrong because everyone said that the Baltimore Ravens cost themselves a lot of money by not extending Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's also costing himself a lot of money by how he's played in the fourth quarter.
They're finna find it. I think he's not gonna get. I think he's gonna get near Kyler Murray money.
I think he's gonna get franchise tagged again.
I do too.
You think
I think they're
he'll
gonna
play
sign
if he's on the franchise tag?
I think they're gonna sign Roquan Smith, franchise tag Lamar, and then try to get Lamar done next season.
Mm-hmm.
You think Lamar's gonna play on that franchise tag? That's the question.
If he doesn't play, he doesn't play. Then who's going to give him $300 million? Nobody.
No, somebody will give him $300 million.
If he doesn't play for a year, Nobody's going to pay him $300 million. The NFL is not a sport that you can sit out
Now look what
a
happened to
year
Le'Veon
and
Bell.
not do anything.
Look what happened to Le'Veon Bell when he sat out.
Yeah. The NFL is the one sport that you cannot afford to sit out for a year and expect to get paid. Especially if you're holding out. If you're holding out because you don't want to play under the franchise tag, you're not even allowed to practice. It's not like you're recovering from an ACL where you can still do your rehab work and you can still like be around the team in practice. If you're holding out and you choose not to play in the franchise tag, you're not even allowed to be at the facility.
Yeah.
I think the Lamar Jackson situation is going to be comparable to Kirk Cousins in Washington.
Yeah, I do too.
I guess he's talking about what Kirk Cousins kept getting franchise, and then leave somewhere else.
Yep.
I can see that.
Yep.
And he's not going to get the $300-400 million that he expects to get.
With Tua playing like this and Lamar being from Broward County, the Miami area, you don't think Lamar to Miami?
No, Tua will get extended.
I thought if Tua, you said Watson was out and got paid, but he was forced to be out.
Watson was out and got paid, but the thing is, Watson was still allowed to practice with the team in the preseason. Watson can still come back and play. Actually, Watson can come back in 2 weeks. Week 11 is the last game where he has to sit.
When Watson was in Houston and he said he didn't want to play for the Texans ever again.
Yeah.
He was suspended, though. I'll say the team suspended him.
The team suspended him, and he was like he could still practice and do other stuff, though. If you're holding out on a franchise tag, you're not even allowed to be at the facility. Like Jackson wouldn't be able to do anything for a year unless it's on.
I just hope Lamar gets the deal done because how I feel. I understand it's a business, but the Ravens. He brought him 14-2 MVP. I understand the running quarterback, the scrambling quarterback is not durable. It's not durable. I understand.
It's not even really about being durable. He's just very one-dimensional.
That's I think the
guy who's one-dimensional. You can shut that down.
That's the thing that I think that's the holdup with the Ravens right now. Because if you look at the last time the Ravens won the Super Bowl, they had Joe Flacco as their quarterback, Ray Rice as their running back, and a strong defense. Ravens don't have a strong defense anymore. It got better with adding Roquan Smith, but they still don't have a strong defense anymore.
Their secondary is still banged up.
Yeah, I don't think the Ravens trust Lamar Jackson enough to get him to the Super Bowl because he is more of that one-dimensional quarterback. He's not like a Joe Flacco that can take the top off of the defense with a big arm, and a Joe Flacco that doesn't make the careless mistakes when the game was on the line. That is one thing that when the playoffs started, Joe Flacco was very good at. He never made that big mistake in the fourth quarter when the game was on the line. If anything, he led his team to victory when the game was on the line versus Lamar Jackson makes so many careless mistakes.
Joe Flacco's off the chain in the playoffs.
Yeah, versus Lamar Jackson in the playoffs and even in the regular season makes so many careless mistakes.
Joe Flacco, Eli Manning's top 10 when it comes down to the two top 10 playoff players.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson, you get him in the playoffs, he's a shell of what he is in the regular season. You get him in the regular season with the game on the line, he makes so many careless mistakes. He just makes himself go from a top 5 quarterback to like a top 15 quarterback.
Based on necessity, though, because if you don't re-sign Lamar Jackson, if you don't want to do his long-term deal, who you're going to replace him with?
I think they'd make a trade to replace him.
No, so you have to. That's the only way how you can come back and get something. You got to realize Ozzie Smith's retired, so Ozzie Newsome's retired, so I do not believe they have.
I heard you the first time when you said Ozzie Smith, by the way. But go ahead, continue.
Shout out to Ozzie Smith. Ozzie Newsome, he's retired, so he's not developing the players. He's not finding the prospects. So I don't think the Ravens are going to get good enough prospect and build them up like that. People don't realize Ozzie Newsome is a Hall of Fame executive.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson's going to cost you. If they cost him so much money, what is that going to do for the rest of the team in terms of being able to build around him because you got so much invested in that?
They're screwed.
Okay, if they sign
which is why I think Chris is right.
You got to get rid of Marlon Humphrey or Roquan Smith.
That's why I think Chris is right. I think they franchise Lamar Jackson again next year so they can extend Roquan Smith, and then they get a year to build up that defense before they make the decision on if they want Lamar Jackson long term or not. I think that's going to be the Ravens' focus this offseason is to repair that defense.
More so than getting Jackson extended. It wouldn't make no sense if you just brought Roquan Smith in as a rental for 8 games.
Yeah,
I think
Unless
they brought
he-
Roquan Smith for long-term purposes for a defensive sound because how the Ravens usually won their Super Bowl was a great secondary
Yeah.
player. Which I'm not saying Marlon Humphrey's great. He's a very good secondary player. You also have Marcus Peters that can take the ball away too, which is a very good player. You got those two players, and you always play with a great defensive linebacker, even if you even just had Terrell Suggs or just Ray Lewis. So I think they're trying to go back to that. But the offense, you got to also put Greg Roman in the hot seat too for some of his offensive play calls due for the Ravens.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
you do, but then the problem is too, though, when you have a player that puts up the numbers that Lamar Jackson puts up, as an offensive coordinator, you kind of get spoiled. So when things don't always work,
Joe Lombardi
yeah, it kind of doesn't work out in your favor.
from the Los Angeles
Hey, but you know
Chargers.
what? But here's the other hand in that basket, right? With Lamar Jackson is because like we had talked about him being one dimensional and him number two, him costing so much money. Where would they ever get a true wide receiver one to stick around and play with him? Because they know that if they go to Baltimore and try to be a true wide receiver one, they're not going to get the yardage or the recognition. Like let's say a Justin
Ravens need a
Jefferson
Tyreek Hill guy
or
for
a
their
Justin
offense.
Jefferson or a Jamar Chase would get because they don't have quarterbacks that throw like that. So they know if they go to Baltimore, they're going to have to take a significant cut in yardage being there.
Yeah, because
If
if
they
you look
don't
at the
sign
if
him,
you look
what
at the
team
free
will
agents
Miles
next
do
year,
that? San Francisco. I think
Yeah.
that would be the best team for his system and skill set with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. If you look at the free agent wide receivers that Baltimore could choose from next year, you have DJ Moore, DeAndre Hopkins, Jarvis Landry are like the top 3 wide receivers that Baltimore could choose from. And I mean, realistically, Hopkins and Landry would help, but I don't know if Hopkins would go there. But if they want to rebuild that defense, the defensive free agent class for this upcoming offseason is going to be huge. You have Fletcher Cox, you have Michael Brockers, Max Crosby, you have Daniil Hunter coming up, Preston
Las
Smith,
Vegas is gonna re-sign Crosby.
you have James Bradbury, Bradley Roby in the secondary, you have Jordan Poyer and Adrian Amos in the secondary. If Baltimore really wants to build their defense, this is the year for them to do it.
I can see them giving Preston Smith to help with that linebacking core. Really.
Yeah.
Preston
If they
Smith
want-
seems like he played for the Ravens.
And then James Bradbury, I could see him getting him in the secondary.
If they get James Bradbury, that'll be a very solid pick.
That's why if they want to rebuild their defense, this is the year for them to do it, which
I
is
think
why
they're
I think
honestly worried about
franchise
the
taking
defense
Jackson makes
more.
sense.
I think they're worried about their defense more. I think they're going to try to build their defense through free agency and build their offense through the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
David
honestly,
says, what about OBJ? But OBJ's not going to go to the Ravens. He wants to go to a true contender, and the Ravens aren't a true contender.
the problem with the Ravens is I think how their offense set up, they just want their number. I think how the offense is set up is they're going to have that Tyreek Hill, Jaden Waddle type of guy, a speed guy that can take the top off the field and that also can run routes and get yak yards because that's not what the offense is based off of receiver just running a route tree. And I like the Mark Andrews. I think the Mark Andrews thing is perfect with them. So I think they need a speed guy. I think Hollywood was the perfect fit for him. Hollywood just can't catch.
Yeah.
I think they just need a guy like that in that system and that type of system.
Anthony says, where would be a good fit for Lamar?
San Francisco
No,
by far.
San Francisco.
Francisco's the best
Anybody
fit
else
for
have a
Lamar.
different team?
San Francisco,
San Francisco would be done to bring in Lamar, though, man. They've already got plenty of rough runners in.
I'm not saying San Francisco would get him. I'm saying that'll be the best fit due to the zone reads, the offensive running tree with Kyle Shanahan making it the motions. You still got Debo Samuel, you got C-Mac, George Kittle. You use Lamar doing that whole tree. I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. So that's why I said Lamar.
That's going to kill. That's going to
where
kill
do I
the other
think Lamar will
players.
go? Where would I see Lamar go? Miami was my first option, but if I don't see Lamar, I can't see him other besides Baltimore because you're gonna have to change your whole offense. The whole offense is gonna have to change, and most of these quarterbacks right now, other than Chicago, Justin Fields, that's the reason. But I say because the offense is gonna change, you're gonna have to like when Lamar got drafted, Greg Roman changed the whole offense. You're gonna have to change that whole offense.
Yeah. I don't know what team he'd end up with. I think San Francisco would be a good fit because of Shanahan.
Lamar would be a good fit because they need a quarterback. They don't need a runner. They've got 3 guys that can freaking run the damn ball.
Shanahan.
But they don't have nobody that outside of Garoppolo. I mean, he does an okay job, but they don't have nobody that can truly be what they need, which is a damn quarterback. Lamar's a hybrid running back 1/QB2.
We're going about play style though, Jay. San Francisco play style.
Man, how does the style fit in there?
You see the zone read?
But he wants to run the damn ball. Whose legs are you cutting out from underneath them? Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Debo? Because all those guys, what they're known for on that team is going to get dramatically cut because Lamar's going to want to run the damn ball.
Best team.
You got 3 freaking runners and no quarterback. Hell, you're running a college Wildcat 24/7.
What about putting Lamar? What about putting Lamar Jackson with Brian Dable in New York with Saquon?
Anything's better than Daniel Jones.
What? He just had a 155 QBR. What are you talking about?
Here's my thing.
Get up one of the sheets right now and show your face.
So you'd rather have Daniel Jones over there than Lamar?
You know what? Here's the deal, man. I'm not saying Lamar is not a good quarterback, but what I need is a quarterback. I don't need a running back. I got Saquon Barkley for that. I just need a guy who can throw the damn ball.
You're saying he's
just throw the freaking ball.
He's inconsistent passing. I understand that. I'll give you that. He's inconsistent passing. One game
he's
you'll have a
QB2 with the RB1 legs.
But I just got to see him. I just got to see Greg Roman change the offense for him to help him out more with that. I just got to see that first. I think Lamar is a very good quarterback, a great quarterback. I think he could win. I agree. I think he can't win a Super Bowl until he fixes passing better and better. But we seen Cam Newton get there. We just got to see him get there, see what he do. We seen Cam Newton get there.
But who's going to develop Lamar into a passing quarterback? Who's going to develop him?
Brian Dable. He developed Josh Allen from the runner to a passer.
That's true. I'll give you that.
Josh Allen's a great passer, but Josh Allen's also a scrambler too. So I can see.
But Josh Allen throws the damn ball.
I think the best setup. I think his best, like for his skill set, will be San Francisco. I can agree with Jay. San Francisco problem will be they can't take the top off the field now.
I could see him in Atlanta too.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, we know Michael Vick did quite well down there. I can see Lamar in New Orleans also, with him and Alvin Kamara.
Well, depending on how long Kamara gets suspended for.
Yeah.
And that defense. You got one of the best defenses in football. You got Olave, 4.2 speed. He very sound. You still, even though I'm gonna say this lightly, you still got Michael Thomas, even though he's always hurt.
Oh, he's gonna be gone. He ain't gonna be back.
I could see Lamar end up in Houston.
Houston's a good fit too.
And I'm gonna just throw this off the wall just because I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. I could see Lamar end up in Detroit.
That would be hilarious if Detroit gets Lamar.
Because if you look at how
I like Jared Goff. Jared Goff's playing very well.
He is playing very well, but if you look at how dangerous Detroit's offense has been this year, you add Lamar Jackson to that mix. That gives them another dimension offensively.
DeAndre Smith, Jamal Williams.
I think he goes to Detroit. It's just a lateral move.
I think he has
a lateral move.
He has to get traded to Detroit to go.
I don't think he makes Detroit any better than what he makes, the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's a lateral. I think it's okay. You went north. Okay, great. Good job.
If I'm Lamar, I'll find a team with my best skill set with the weakest division. I think the AFC South
AFC South and NFC South.
Those are perfect for him. So I'll say New Orleans, Atlanta could be one. Houston.
You know where Lamar would be good? Lamar would be good on a rugby team. He'd be good on a rugby team down there in Australia. Just let that dude run around the damn thing and try not to get hit and just lateral left and right. He'd be a great rugby guy. I'd go see the game.
He led the league in passing touchdowns before, Jay.
He wouldn't be a bad fit. He wouldn't be a bad fit with the Colts either. With
You'll love him on the Colts.
Taylor.
They'll have
Taylor in the defense we have. He wouldn't be a bad fit.
Oh, Chris, how do you like Jeff Saturday coaching?
Hey, we looked good yesterday. I know it was against the Raiders. But
he said we won. Damn it, we won.
Line, what was more impressive to me was the offensive line blocked. Offensive line looked a lot better yesterday.
Because Jeff Saturday was a great offensive lineman.
I think he gave the team a little bit of a spark. We'll see what they look like against the Eagles this week. But I was glad that we didn't look like
the best. He allows those coordinators to do what they're supposed to do and not try to be that guy. So I think that was a good point.
I also think Jeff, we all know Jeff Saturday. We all seen him and stuff on First Take stuff. We know he hate analytics. And I believe a lot of coaches now care about the analytics. I think Jeff is just like, I'm just going to do my gut feeling because I've played football in this league before and I know what I need to do.
I mean, Matt Ryan was 21 and 28 yesterday for 222 yards. So
I just think analytics is controlling.
Yeah, he didn't have Ryan throwing the ball 55, 60 times like we were trying to do earlier.
Yeah, he ran the ball down their throat at first.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor got a big run. Then Matt Ryan
Matt Ryan got a big run.
Yeah, Matt Ryan did get a big run. He got a 30-yarder.
Yeah,
analytics is good when it's used as a tool and not to end all be.
Analytics is good for baseball, not football.
No, you can use analytics for football. You just can't let it be the end all be all by your decision making.
I think analytics are used too much in baseball as well.
Absolutely. I agree.
I think analytics sometimes are for people that don't understand the game and they don't want to take the time to just sit there and watch a game. So they'll say it's best to run this. You got to realize analytics ruined my season.
It goes back to what Dustin said earlier. Numbers can lie. Well, that's what's analytics.
I think football was more of a.
I hate it in baseball.
It's
all the numbers. I want to get to their books real quick.
Well, it's numbers, but it's also matchups. And I mean, there's a lot more to analytics than just numbers, but numbers is a big part of it.
Numbers, the matchup, the likelihood to play. Like, I think Jeff Saturday, they probably like, oh, we have a 57% chance to make it on this play. And Jeff just like, you know what, I'm just going to run the ball. I'm not going to listen to what you guys got to say. And I think that's what is separating the Colts. And it's probably Jeff is a good motivator. Frank Wright played in NFL, but Jeff Saturday, he's one of the most recently retired. He hasn't been out of the league as long as Frank Wright.
Well, and Jeff Saturday was a consultant for the Colts, so he'd been around the team some.
I could see Jeff Saturday with a bunch of analytical paperwork. I could see this being him. I'd be like, I don't understand all this.
Jeff Saturday probably throw it at
just run the damn ball. I don't understand that damn ones and zeros and play this guy versus this guy. Just run the damn ball. Let's go north
with Jeff Saturday. With Coach Jeff Saturday, you could tell looking at, because I'm not going to lie, I was looking at it. The Colts is not that far either. Colts can make a little run also. Only team that's far superior to Colts in the division is the Titans.
Yeah, but we have a tough schedule. We still play the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants.
Eagles are going to get beat by somebody.
They're going to get beat this week by the Colts.
He's like, they got to get beat by somebody. I don't think you're going to go the whole year undefeated. So Eagles get beat by somebody.
The Colts' chance to beat the Eagles, they're going to have to run the ball. If they can get Taylor going. And
I think that's what Saturday's mode is going to be. Him being a former offensive lineman, hearing him talk and stuff, what he's going to do is most likely run the ball and play a lot of play action pass with Matt Ryan. And when Matt Ryan needs to make the throw, he can make the throw.
Anthony said, "Stat guy, will this be the year a wide receiver will win the MVP?"
I think it could be.
If it could, I think Tariq.
And it's going to be it's going to come down a Hill and Jefferson.
They bring the biggest impact on their team.
Because if you look at the quarterbacks, Josh Allen has fallen off. He was the clear front runner for the MVP, and after his last couple of weeks, he's kind of fallen off. Lamar Jackson got off to a hot start the first 3 games, and now Lamar Jackson is just kind of sitting there. Jalen Hurts, you might say, is the MVP front runner because of where his team is, but
Best offensive line, defense.
yeah, he doesn't have like
If you look at his
AJ Brown's
numbers,
unguardable.
yeah,
and
he doesn't
Devontae
have the
Smith is
numbers to
number
be
two
like an
in football.
MVP, but he might be the MVP favorite just because of where his team is. 2 is going to be up there because of what
I
he's
got
doing
Patrick
this
Mahomes
year.
is my favorite. Patrick Mahomes, and I got Jefferson 2, and I got Tyreek Hill 3.
Yeah, I think this year, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year, and it's going to be between Hill and Jefferson.
Jefferson's literally like I say the Vikings. They got good pieces, but Dalvin Cook, he's always banged up. Dalvin Cook is always gonna miss 2 or 3 games every season. Thielen is playing the worst he played his career. Maybe stat guy seen it. Thielen's always been my guy. I always love
Thielen. I'm not going to say
Thielen's
not playing the worst he's ever played.
I've never watched the Vikings
I don't think
personally. I
he's
watched
he's
him like
getting
4
the
or 5
touches.
That's the thing, though. Thielen has gone from the team's number 1 option 3 years ago to now he's the team's number 4 option because right now Hawkinson's the number 2 option.
You think he was the number 1 option with Diggs?
He was because he had more receiving yards than Diggs over a 3-year stretch. He had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and after that is when Diggs had his first 1,000-yard season with Minnesota.
And then 2 Kirk Cousins. No, comeback player of the year. And Saquon's not winning that. Geno Smith got that.
But if you look at Minnesota right now, Jefferson's the number 1 option.
Absolutely.
Jefferson's the number 2 option, and Jefferson's the number 3 option.
No, I say Hawkinson has been playing.
No, I'm just saying, like, Jefferson's like the clear-cut number 1 option that if you're not going to him, you're going to Hawkinson and then Thielen. Like, Thielen's not playing that bad. He's just now at the point at being 32 years old in his 10th year that he's resorting to the fact that he's the number 3 option. So his numbers aren't that great because he's the number 3 option. Now that you have Hawkinson's the number 2 option, now that you have Jefferson's the number 1, Thielen's kind of content with taking his 45 to 50 yards receiving a game and just being okay with it.
Yeah, because I think Jefferson, I'll the reason is like what Stat guy said, I won't put Tyreek Hill over Jefferson. Tyreek Hill got to do this when he get 1,500 yards with him. But Jefferson up there in Minnesota, he's basically the guy up there in Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, since Jefferson's been there, I love Kirk. I always have since Washington. Don't know why. I just like the guy. I don't know why. But no offense, Jay. That guy, he just seems like a normal guy to me. He's just like a normal guy to me. Kirk Cousins like a normal guy. He wouldn't if you've seen him, you would not know he's Kirk Cousins.
No, you wouldn't.
But this is not the best this is the best he's played since Jefferson has been. Jefferson may get Cousins better and better every year when Jefferson gets better and better every year, and he's unguardable.
Yeah, it's the thing. Like, if you look at that Buffalo game yesterday, especially in the fourth quarter and in overtime, everybody knew the ball was going to Jefferson, and yet they still couldn't stop it.
He's unguardable.
The catch that he made, the one-handed catch that he made, and then he had the catch that he had in overtime that brought the ball down to the 3.
I gotta see that rematch between him and Slay though.
That was a great
If
catch.
if he can do what he did to Slay,
it looked like that was
I'll
going to be
put Jefferson the best receiver in football.
See, I think that's the ultimate thing. The worst game he's had all year was the game that Minnesota lost.
Was against
Darius Slay.
And Slay, honestly, is playing the best corner in football.
And I think if they meet again, having TJ Hawkinson the second time around against Philly is going to help Justin Jefferson out a lot more against Philly because there's not a linebacker in Philadelphia that's going to be able to cover Hawkinson. So if you start by throwing Hawkinson these little short 8 to 12-yard routes.
You're muted, Jay. You're muted, Jay.
My whole life is muted, but that doesn't matter. Hey, listen. Though, the addition of Quinn from Chicago over, and I see what Quinn can do. He played with Dallas. I know he's really good on that edge rushing. I like to see how that is going to impair Cousins when you got him, coming in on you with the rest of the Eagles defense.
Yeah, I agree there too, but I'm just looking at the purpose of one of the Eagles' biggest problems on defense, and it's been their biggest problem the last couple of years, is they don't have a linebacker that knows how to cover a tight end in pass coverage.
And they still don't have one.
Yeah, if you have Hawkinson now against Philadelphia, you can use him for like these 8 to 12-yard routes over the middle to kind of get the linebackers now to spread out. If that happens, you're going to have Justin Jefferson in one-on-one matchups with Darius Slay all night. I don't think Slay can take him on a one-on-one matchup all night.
No, I'm not going to lie. I don't think nobody can. He's probably
because if you watch the first game against Philadelphia, yes, it was primarily Slay versus Jefferson, but he still had safety help over the
How
top in a
y'all gonna
lot of
beat
those
the
plays.
Eagles? Dalvin Cook is gonna have one of them 200-yard games
Yep.
that Dalvin Cook's known for.
Yeah. I don't think Slay can do what he did the first time against Jefferson just because I don't think he's going to have the safety help over the top this
Well,
time.
also Philly help is too, just with Slay. I think Slay's playing like the best corner in football. I think Slay right now, we gotta give him the best corner. John Ramsey is getting killed out there this year.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier Howard, I like Xavier Howard, but he's not the effective. I gotta say Slay. And you gotta realize what helping Philly too is not just Slay, because Slay, they have Philly. Jay can contribute with this too, because he's seen it. You got James Bradbury on the other side, and he's another lockdown number one corner. James Bradbury was good in New York. When he was healthy, he was an all-pro player. James Bradbury's helping with the other side, and then you got Gardner Johnson. He leads the league in interceptions. You have Epps. They got very good players also in that secondary that help Slay. So I think how you're going to beat them is you're not going to outthrow Philly, because I think that secondary lockdown. I think you're going to have Dalvin Cook, one of them teams with them that's known for running, San Fran, even Dallas. If Kellen Moore learns how to run the ball,
the Colts.
You love to say. I was talking about NFC like Super Bowl perennials, like Dallas can beat them due to the fact that they run the ball more. I think Minnesota can beat them with the Dalvin Cook. You have San Francisco. Those are teams that can beat Philly. I love Sauce Gardner. It's just because he's a rookie. I think it's because it's a rookie thing, but Slay been doing this for years, man. Slay's been a top 5 corner for like his whole career, since his prime. I think we gotta give it to Slay now.
Damian says he has Saquon for the MVP.
Saquon's very good, but nah, Saquon's not even in the top 5 in my opinion.
I definitely wouldn't have Saquon in there. But
like I said, I got Mahomes. Mahomes is playing the best.
Who's your MVP right now, Jay?
Xavier Howard.
Yeah, I gotta kind of. I don't know, man. I got a couple, man. I think Hurts is just playing extremely, extremely well. He's not turning the ball over. I think last time I saw him, he had, and this is going, I believe, into the Knights game. He had, 18 touchdowns, 2 picks. So he's not turning the ball over. He's running, he's scrambling. For me, I love Hurts, man. I think this is his breakout year, man.
I just don't think I don't think a quarterback is playing better than Mahomes right now.
Of course. That's why you're underneath the sheet right now, but it's okay. No big deal.
No, Mahomes, he doesn't have Tyreek Hill. He's playing with.
I'm just saying, hey, from underneath the sheet, I can say whatever I want. No big deal. It's all good, man. I never trust a man that doesn't show his face. If you want to say Patrick Mahomes, hey, say Patrick Mahomes. I got you. I'm going to go with the guy who's undefeated right now. I'm playing phenomenal and Hurts. Now, again, if you want to say career is a whole other level. But we're just talking about this year, this specific year.
Are you seeing like Philly's team, what they acquired and everything on their defense and having?
Hey, are we talking about MVP, or are we talking about management's ability to do their job? I'm sorry, I forgot what we were talking about here. Could you remind me again? I don't know. Was this management level?
Jay,
player level?
they're undefeated.
What are we talking about?
Because they're undefeated right now. I can't say.
So maybe you should go to Kansas City and have a talk with their management and say, "Hey, look, why y'all screwing my boy over?"
That's not my boy. I hate Mahomes.
Then why are you so worried about it?
Because
stop hating on Hurts, man. Stop hating on Hurts.
I'm not hating. I ain't gonna lie, bro.
You still like my ex-wife.
I'm not hating on Hurts, bro. I just gotta see him. I just gotta see him and the best quarterback in that division play.
Hey, and I heard this earlier, but Anthony saying that Justin Fields trying to be the next Lamar Jackson, but I heard a commentator.
Justin Fields is running out of necessity. He's not running because he wants to.
Wait, I heard a commentator on TV say that Justin Fields is playing his way into the MVP conversation.
They're not. He's the only hope in Chicago. All I'm gonna say is Justin Fields. I get the Bears are not winning, but the man is putting up numbers, breaking records. He should definitely be there. It's because you got to
look. If your rushing totals are better than your passing yardage, you're not a quarterback. You're a hybrid.
Jay, you got to get Justin Fields is running off an necessity.
No, you're a freaking hybrid.
Lamar first choice is run. Fields, he has to run because Chicago can't block anybody.
I think Fields just running for the nearest exit.
Facts. He's just trying to make a play.
He's just trying to save his life.
I will say this: Fields has played, but he has been playing better the last couple games. He's made some big plays. I don't think he's in the MVP conversation.
I think they finally set up plays for Fields to succeed, but I think Fields is also running for his life more than most of the time. When you see Fields get them big touchdown runs, it's when he's trying to pass the ball and he sees a lineman coming to his face. Pause.
Bro, you ever see when they do a close-up on Fields' face when he's running, and you ever see his eyes? Yeah. That dude literally looks like he's running for his life, man. Like he. Did
you see the 1 yard touchdown he ran? And you don't think?
Oh yeah, no. I think that's one where I was speaking on where they showed his eyes, and it just looked like that dude's about ready to pass out.
When I seen that 1 yard touchdown he ran, he basically ran 20 yards, and I'm like, I understand. Fields is just running for his life right now. I think San Francisco.
Frankie says Tua should be MVP.
I think San Francisco's pissed that they got Trey Lance instead of Justin Fields.
I'm not. We can't say that because he got hurt in week 1 this year.
I still think Trey Lance can't play better than Justin Fields.
He can throw better. That's the thing with Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a better passer than Justin Fields. That's why I think
the 49ers are going to be a tough out in the playoffs, especially if they can stay healthy, because they're starting to get healthy now and got their offensive linemen back.
They all came back on the Chargers. That's funny. Deebo Samuels, Armstead, all of them. Jennings, everybody that was a factor last night.
Yeah, they all came back.
Elijah Mitchell.
But let's get to our final thoughts for today. Jay, what's your final thoughts, man?
My final thoughts is that Deontay needs to come up underneath that damn sheet and show his damn face. That's my first final thought. My second, you act like you are America's Most Wanted. You don't want to show your face, man.
Frankie, I know we're unhealthy. I don't need
unhealthy and have a coach that doesn't know what's going on.
No, man. My final thoughts is, it's going to be interesting to see how well this Eagles team does continue to play, and can they catch the 72 Dolphins? It's going to be interesting. Now, yes, I asked that to Stat Guy, and Stat Guy like I look at Damien half the time. He says, "Hell no," and it's probably not going to happen, but it's still fun to watch. We'll see. But hey, real quick, man, before I know we're getting ready to get out of here, Unscripted is going to be doing many breaking news shows, so look out for that on Facebook, Twitter, all the places. We'll be doing a little breaking news things here and there. So keep us. And hey, our anniversary show is tomorrow. 2 years in the making. 2 years. So anniversary show tomorrow, Unscripted, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Philly Sports Guy will be on for at least 30 minutes.
All right. I'll be on tomorrow as well, Jay. Stat Guy, what's your final thoughts?
That the college football and the NFL season has continued to teach us expect the unexpected. Because just when you think you've seen it all, then something else happens the next week that you've never seen before. And it's just kind of a continuing domino effect from week to week.
Oh, yeah. I think both seasons have been great so far because there's been upsets. There's been surprises every week. It's been fun to watch. Frankie says I might be on. Deontay, you got any final thoughts?
Watching that game yesterday hurt my soul, but you realize when you got 4 out of your 5 receivers out, you're not going to win that game. But we only lost by a touchdown.
The sad part,
I don't know, man. The 72 Dolphins won with nobody. That's why they call the no-name team. If they can do it, I don't know why you could. Maybe you should try playing team game instead of one-on-one game. That might help you out.
The sad part for you, Deontay, and I know you hate him, but because of all the injuries, Brandon Staley's going to get 1 more year.
I know.
That is true.
You think I didn't think about that last night? I said, we're all banged up, and he's just going to come back. He's going to come back and screw my life up again. I ain't going to lie. Brandon Staley, he played the best. Like, last night, I think because he knows Kyle Shanahan, he was up there with him. He knows what he likes to do. He played pretty good. He coached pretty good. Joe Lombardi, the offensive coordinator, that keep holding Herbert back, oh, he has to go.
Which is kind of interesting because Joe Lombardi was with Sean Payton. So I don't know why Joe Lombardi's holding Herbert back at
He's
all.
literally playing. He played conservative all game.
I know he did. And you look at how he played with Drew Brees, it just surprises me that he's even playing conservative at all when you have a quarterback that's got way more arm talent than Drew Brees ever had.
That's like first drive was very aggressive.
You know, the one person we haven't talked about this week in football is Christian Watson and what he did do against the Cowboys. Hey, it's happened against the Cowboys, but the guy really, I think, is starting to show Aaron Rodgers. Hey, look, I know I kind of scripted at the beginning of the season, but hey, I just gave him 3 touchdowns.
He could have had 4 touchdowns. He missed one of them balls where he tried to catch it one hand and he stopped. I don't know why, but that's why Aaron Rodgers was pissed. But yeah, Staley's coming back, unfortunately. Matt LaFleur, he's not coming back. But hey,
did you see Rodgers up in LaFleur's face?
He cussed out LaFleur. I'm not gonna lie, that was stupid what LaFleur did. Because he was like, why are you giving them time back? Just run the ball and run the timeout. I understood that too. But he had to cuss him out. Well, Rodgers hate that guy. Rodgers hate that guy.
My final thought is the Colts didn't look like a dumpster fire yesterday, so I was happy. They look better than what I thought they would. I know it's the Raiders, but still, Raiders have had some close games this year, and have lost. But
Chris,
Colts
can I say something?
What they look like against the Eagles. What'd you say?
Something about y'all game? The bittersweet moment Jeff Saturday said this year, the Ravens looked terrible, and proved it by going to beat the Raiders.
Yeah, he tweeted out a couple weeks ago that the Raiders looked bad, and then his first game he had to coach against was the Raiders. So that was
his first NFL, and he won.
We'll see what they look like against the Eagles. Also, thoughts and prayers to everybody involved in the University of Virginia shooting that happened earlier.
Absolutely.
I know. Unscripted is going to talk some more about that here in a little while. But thoughts and prayers with everybody that's dealing with that. That's something we shouldn't be happening, but unfortunately, it happens too often here in this world.
And it's sad. It was basically his team. It was athletes that stopped him too.
Yeah, it was ex-football player.
Yeah, that's crazy. But shout out and prayers for them because I did not expect to wake up and see that.
All right, I think you. Thank everybody for joining us. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube at the All Sports All Plays. Follow us on Facebook and Twitch at All Sports All Plays. Like Jay said, check out Unscripted tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. How many years?
2 years.
2 years.
The second year anniversary. Yep.
So join us tomorrow night for that. Me and the Stat Guy will be live good in the morning.
Yeah.
We'll be live tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. for Around the Bases, our baseball show. And then Deontay jumps on when he can because I know he's busy with school and everything. Appreciate you jumping on. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the ASAP Afternoon Blitz.